This Wednesday morning, Valentine's Day edition of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. What's your sport card? Hockey, baseball, football, basketball, maybe even wrestling. Hey, they even have boxing cards on there now. Whatever your sport is, you can get it at firstroundcollectibles.com. And you remember back around Christmas time, they had this terrific sale up to 50% off the majority of their store. Well, I was on the website the other day, and that sale is still kicking. And you can get 10% more off with promo code SportsAddict. That is promo code SportsAddict for 10% on any sports card you want, including the ones that are already on sale. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one. STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beat's back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they never.
Good morning and welcome to Pucks Across Borders on this Wednesday. Crazy night in the NHL. We'll get to it and more. But first, look at that. At the top of my screen today, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. You also read his work on Winners and Whiners. You see him on Total Apex Sports talking about the NBA, talking about the NFL. Andre, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well for a Wednesday morning. Started a little slow, but we're back in action. We're ready to rock and roll. So let's get it.
Yes, sir. And at the bottom of your screen, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. John, how you feeling, man?
Doing pretty good, especially after Devils win last night. Mark,
Yep.
I think me and you got a little extra pep in our step this morning after our teams played.
Yeah, I mean, as a Leaf fan, I can give you 10 things to complain about right now if you want them. But we got the 2 points, so can't complain about that. And I'll just kind of get into it right off the bat. So a little news around the NHL. First of all, Brad Marchand, the guy that you love to hate unless he's on your team. I've gotten in like arguments about this with Leaf fans where people talk about how much they hate, especially back when he was like licking people and like just such a rat. But I got in fights with like Leaf fans, and I would always say, if this guy was on your team, you would love him. And everyone, no, he's a loser. I would never want him on my team. It's like, dude, the guy puts up like almost 100 points every year. What are you talking about? You wouldn't want him on your team. Get out of here. 1,000 games last night. So congratulations to him. He participated in one of our bad beats, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But congrats to him. Also, I'll just dive right into my takeaway with this news that was handed down within an hour of puck drop. Morgan Rielly, we can finally stop talking about it. He got 5 games, which I said on the show yesterday is ridiculous. Leaf fan or no Leaf fan, I really do feel like I would feel the same way. I think it's ridiculous that he got 5 games. Not too much more to say about that, but that's what he got. A side note to that, I was telling you guys before we went live, that Ottawa-Columbus game was hilarious because Rielly Gregg, the guy who Morgan Rielly went after, who did the slap shot heard around the world on Saturday night. Any chance the Blue Jackets had to mess with him, they did, and it was phenomenal. Like, I'm not a fan of hurted people, okay? I don't like the knee on knee. Maybe I'm a bad person, but like Boone Jenner, just seeing Ridley Gregg flying down the middle of the ice, didn't even have the puck, throws out the knee. Every post whistle, Gregg was on the ice. The Blue Jackets coming in hot with just giving him the business, if you will, just getting the hockey glove in his face, chopping him in the back of the legs. Key players know what's up, man. What he did Saturday was against the code, and I'm really curious to see if other teams just do this to him as time goes on. But that leads into my takeaway, short and sweet. The Leafs last night, they get the win. And I know that it's my team, but it's an important conversation to have. We talked about the playoff race the other day. It's super tight right now, and the Devils got a much needed win. Tampa Bay got a much needed win, and Detroit lost. So you give yourself a little bit of separation there in that first wild card spot. You're still a point back of Tampa Bay, but at least you keep yourself even more so in the conversation. And in that wild card spot, and Washington got the loss. The Islanders got the loser's point. So much needed 2 points. The other part of that is Tavares, Marner, and Rielly, 3 of their top players, not on the ice last night. And they had one of their most complete games of the year. This team is just so frustrating. I know I'm a Leaf fan, and I know I give this team a hard time, as this whole city does, but how you have 2 guys like Marner, like we knew Rielly wasn't going to play. But then an hour before the game, we find out Tavares isn't playing. We find out Marner's not playing. And they go out. They win 4-1. They have one of the most complete games of the year. And they don't have 3 of their stars. It's just an anomaly, this team. It drives me insane. John, we'll go to you, man. What's your takeaway from last night?
My takeaway revolves around probably what was the biggest eyebrow raiser last night, and that's in Buffalo, New York. We've talked about that before. It felt like the Bills were playing last night. 7-0, 7-0 victory over the Kings for the Sabres. Mark, I know you had the Sabres winning last night, and we're probably this close to putting them in the parlay, but man, they won. To say they won convincingly is an understatement. I think what blew me away about this game was something you said in our group chat last night. Not only did the Sabres win the game 7-0, the Kings outshot them in that game 33-24.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind, man. Like, how is that even possible? That you outshoot a team that I think the fact that they got 7 goals off of just 24 shots, because I'm going to be honest, 24 shots not a lot.
No.
And yet they get 7 goals. That has to be about as bad of a goaltending performance as I've seen in quite a while. And Andre, you took this last night too, that the Kings, we might have to take a second look at them. Maybe they're not out of the gate yet. Like, I thought the Kings were past this, but clearly not. Luckily for them, Nashville lost. Credit. You can thank my Devils before you have to play them tomorrow. But I don't know what to make of this Kings team, man. Like, I really thought they were past this with the way they were looking the last couple of games, but maybe we have to circle back around, and I don't know. I don't know what to make of this Kings team, honestly.
There's 2 ways to look at it, right? You can look at it like, you can look at it like what I think, and that they're done. They're done. They might sneak into the last wild card spot, but I think this team's trash now. I think something happened in the middle of the year, and I don't think it's salvageable. That's my personal opinion. Or they won a couple games coming out of the break. They've played Buffalo twice in the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And they lost both those games. Didn't they lose against Buffalo like 5-3 or something like that? So like a combined score of 12-3 against Buffalo. Some teams just have another team's number. If you want to look on the positive side to that, you know, the Leafs lost to Chicago twice. They lost to Ottawa 3 times. Do you know what I mean? Like some teams just like you guys can both. I know the Devils, like you were talking yesterday, John. The Cane, you guys just can't beat the Canes. So maybe that's the case with Buffalo and the Kings, but I think it's the former. I was thinking about this last night, and maybe it's just because I'm still in my feelings about the Eagles' epic collapse, but it's kind of Eagles-esque, you know? I know it's different.
Bit, yeah.
I know it's different. But the Eagles 10-1, there were signs of cracks in the armor, but the collapse that they had, and maybe it's the same thing with the Kings, man. And maybe it's just
I'll add to your point. I still think they can make a play. I still think they can make the playoffs, mainly because I'm still not totally convinced the team is going to move up and take it from them. Although I'll admit Calgary's playing well of late. But I'll add to your point, Mark, that if the Kings do make the last wild card, let's just say, I am not convinced at all that they're going to win a playoff series or be like a Florida Panthers-esque team. Like, I think they'll be the team that we like talk about in the NFL and the NBA, where they make the playoffs, but like that series is probably not going to be compelling, and that they're going to get knocked out swiftly. That's kind of what I feel like this Kings team is going to end up being. I guess if you want to say Eagles-esque, I would agree with it. That's just kind of the feeling I'm getting from them.
Well, that's where the Eagles comparison comes in, right? Is like the Eagles, they made it to the playoffs because they had 10 wins banked from the first half of the year. And even though I picked the Eagles to win in our little pool that we had, I mean, everyone knew the Eagles were winning that game. It was, and I feel that way about the Kings, man. The Kings might get into the playoffs because they banked so many points in the first half of the year. But dude, if they have to play Vancouver in the first round, good night. Or Colorado or whoever gets that first spot, good night, man. The Kings they're done. Andre, what about you, man? First, if you have anything to add to this, or just go ahead with your takeaway from last night.
Yeah, I think if they make the playoffs, they're a gentleman's sweep at best. I really just can't see them staying on the playoff at this point.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
Like you, Mark, I've put the nail in the coffin on that team. Something just caused the wheels to fall off completely, and maybe we'll find out, but we probably won't. My takeaway, kind of related, these playoff races are getting real interesting. We're gonna have, or I guess I'm gonna have plenty of time to talk about the Atlantic very shortly, but I'll go to the Central for now. The Dallas Stars on their home ice last night playing the Hurricanes. Dallas tied for the top of the Central before the night. Or I guess they were 2 points ahead of the Avalanche. The Canes trailing the Rangers by a few points. If they had 2 points in each game they had in hand, they would have been tied with them still. And the Stars get outshot. That was a theme of yesterday. It seems like a lot of teams, lopsided shot totals, got outshot 34-23, but pulled out a 4-2 win, kept their lead over the Avalanche in the standings with the game in hand over Colorado. Obviously, the Jets are still lurking 5 points behind, 3 games in hand, but they've been struggling lately. Good win for Dallas team that at times has been unconvincing, but at times gets overlooked even. I think everyone here would still say they're the third best team in the Central, but they're the ones at the top of the division right now. So good win for them. The tops of these divisions are getting very interesting. I can't wait to talk about the Atlantic today, so I'm just going to stop it there.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Like Dallas, like I've never been against Dallas. I've always thought that they were a lock for the playoffs even before the year. But yeah, man, like you look, you're like, oh, they're at the top of the division. Like there's just something about them that's not overwhelming. You know what I mean? There's something about them you just don't think like juggernaut. But here they are, lockstep with the Avalanche. First place in the division. Huge game for the Jets later tonight. I mean, they're pretty much a lock to make it into the playoffs too. But if they want any business of that number one spot, they have to win tonight because, yeah, man, Dallas just keeps rolling. Complete side note, and you know me, this is something that I always kind of pay attention to. I think what bothers me the most about the Dallas Stars is all of their jerseys are awful. Like all of their jerseys, like watching their games is always an eyesore. I think that their normal jerseys are ugly. Those black neon third jerseys are awful. Like I just wish they would go back to the 90s and the 2000s with those deep green, gold, black. Those are beautiful, you know. Darren Hatcher, Mike Modano, Ed Belfour, like those jerseys were just they were nice, they were smooth, and these just bright green. It just I can't watch this team. I hope they don't go to the finals, man. I can't watch this team for 2.5 months, man.
Bring it up with maybe when I watched some NHL hits on the GameCube. Heard Modano. The Stars were nasty in that game.
Oh, dude. Well, unfortunately for Mike Modano, terrific player. Whenever I think about him, I think about when they tipped him over on the stretcher. You guys remember that? He got hit by somebody, probably Eric Lindros, but or maybe even Scott Stevens, John. But yeah, he got like knocked out by a hit. They put him on a stretcher, and the guys rolling him off the ice dropped the stretcher, tipped it over. Poor guy. He's a superstar player, and every time I think about him, I just think about him falling off a stretcher. It's awful. Passed out. YouTube it. It's quite the moment. All right, moving on to I mean, listen, bad beats, but I'll be honest, boys. I had myself a pretty good night last night. 9 for 2 in my picks, straight up. I bet all of those picks in one parlay, and I was 2 results away from like 12 grand. So that's gambling right there. My wife doesn't realize how close we were to being that much closer to being debt free. But hey, you know, you can't win them all. John, what's your bad beat for the night, man?
Going back to Buffalo, New York, since they seem to be my theme for today. That game was interesting to say the least. I say this is a bad beat because on the show yesterday, I felt like that was going to be a low-scoring game. I didn't see the Kings putting up that many goals. And I didn't dismiss the idea of the Sabres winning. Did I see a 7-0 win coming? Of course not. No. But the bad beat is that I picked it to go under 6, and the Kings got shut out, and it still lost. the Sabres, like
Yeah.
one of at minimum one of the 8 worst teams in the NHL, put up 7 goals by themselves for it to go over. So the Kings getting shut out and still losing that pick, that's my bad beat.
I didn't think that they were going to score 7, but I told you, man, when they win, they score, you know? Yeah, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say I told you they were going to score 7 because I didn't think that. But yeah, that's a tough one. All right, Andre, talk to me, man. I feel like I know where we're going, but what's your bad beat from last night?
Yeah, I let the boys down yesterday. Only best bet that didn't hit. And it was looking good. The Bruins down 2-0, clawed back, tied it at 2 in the second period. And then, you know, third period, They're clawing, they're scratching, they're fighting. They're playing pretty well. They outshot the Lightning 30-25 in that game yesterday. They were on home ice. Obviously, they had the momentum with the 2 goals in the second period to even it up. Couldn't finish the job. Couldn't finish the story, if you will. Goes to overtime. Can't win it there. I mean, it doesn't matter for me at that point, but still can't put the finishing touches on it. And they lose in a shootout because of Braden Point. And despite playing well, despite being at home, despite facing a team that doesn't defend or goaltend well, Andrei Vasilevsky decided he wanted to be the best goalie in the world again.
Unbelievable.
And the Bruins didn't win in regulation, and it cost our parlay. And I'm very upset about it. So for sure, my bad beat. I know I'm wearing yellow with black headphones right now, so it doesn't feel like it, but I'm not happy with I'm never happy with the Bruins or Boston. I'm definitely not after yesterday.
I will say, Andre, there's no shame. Boston versus Tampa, 60-minute line. It's a bold pick, bro. It was the right pick in my opinion. I picked it too. I bet it personally. I believed in it. And listen, John, no disrespect. You know I love you, man, but
Okay.
I would rather you lose a bad beat to Tampa Bay Lightning. I would rather lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning than lose to the Blackhawks, being the only one that didn't. And the only night that we don't pick the team against the Blackhawks on the puck line.
They cover.
And they cover. The Canucks cover. Which was a really important game for the Canucks. All right, let's go. I guess it's that time, boys. Let's dive in. 3 games in the NHL tonight, starting with I'll be that arrogant. I didn't have a bad beat last night. I had a great night, and I can't. What can I say, boys? I was on fire. I'll let my ego reign supreme. Although I will say, I did have Mitch Marner on 3-shot parlay, and he got voided, and the parlay hit. So maybe you know what? Maybe that's not a bad beat. Maybe it's good that he was voided. Maybe he wouldn't have solidified the deal for me. So anyway, moving on. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Penguins hosting the Florida Panthers. And man, Pittsburgh, let's just get into this just real quickly. Only 3 games to dive into tonight. 53 points for Pittsburgh, man. You're 7 points away from the second spot, second wildcard spot. You need these wins, and Florida is not the team that you want to play right now. Pittsburgh plus 105 dogs at home, which I actually thought was pretty respectful, considering the money line odds that we've been seeing over the last week or two. Minus 125 favorites on the road are the Panthers. Minus 1.5 puck line for the Panthers is plus 195. Plus 1.5 for Penguins, minus 238. The over is 6 at minus 102, and the under is minus 118. John, we'll start with you, man. What are you seeing between the Panthers and the Penguins tonight? There's a lot of P's that I was just saying. Panthers, Penguins, puck line, plus. Anyway, John, what do you got for tonight, bro?
All right, so before I dive into this, I was talking to you guys about the Penguins the other day, before we started a show. I consider the Penguins such an anomaly in the NHL, and I feel the need to share this on the air. So the Penguins, if you look at the standings and look at every team that has 55 points or less, the Penguins are the only team with a positive goal differential.
It's so bizarre.
They're plus 13, and yet I know there's not really many truly awful teams in the Metropolitan, but the Penguins are in next to last place in that division, and yet they still have plus 13 goal differential. It just boggles my mind with this team. I'm just getting convinced the Penguins are not meant to be this year. I really do think this is the year Crosby misses the playoffs. I think they're gonna come up short. And like Mark said, man, Florida's not the team to be facing when you're trying to figure yourselves out, which is what I think the Penguins are trying to do. Crosby knows the disrespect. He's having a great year, especially for someone that's been in the league for nearly 20 years at this point. But I just think Florida's a bad matchup for the Penguins, and these two teams met a couple weeks ago, I believe, and Florida won a tight game where both teams managed to get a point, but they won 3-2 in the end. I feel like it's going to be a very similar type of game. I would not get too aggressive on this game and bet the puck line. I think Pittsburgh can keep this close, but I do think Florida is the better version of the Penguins. These two teams play very similarly, in my opinion, but Pittsburgh averages only 2.9 goals per game. Florida averages 3.19. Florida has the much better power play. They have them beat by like 11%. So I also think goaltending, both these teams are rather good. They're two of the top 5 teams in the league at goals allowed. But again, I just think Florida's the better team here. So I know Florida's minus 125. I would grab it. I do like the Panthers to come out on top on this one.
Andre, what about you, man? What do you see here in this game?
I think John hit a lot of very good
Yeah.
points that I want to touch on. What's important for me, the Panthers are on the Bruins' heels again. With the win in this one, they're only 2 points back. And obviously this team won the East last year. This team thinks, knows, whatever words you want to say for it, that they're Stanley Cup contenders and can win it all. This is a team they just beat, like John said, and this is a very winnable game. The Penguins, offense, 1 goal in their last game, 2 goals game before against the Wild, both on the road. In their last 10, they have not scored more than 3 goals in a game. Florida shut out the Avalanche over the weekend. Before that, held the Capitals to 2 goals. Before that, even though they lost, held the Flyers to 2 goals. That's their 3 games since the break. In their last 7 games, they haven't allowed a team to score more than 2 goals. It's 0, like 5 2s in a row, and then a 1. The Penguins, assuming they're going to score 1 or 2 goals, probably aren't going to win this game. The Panthers are very good at what they do, and that's keeping the puck out the net. They're physical. They're nasty. They'll beat you up. They will score enough to win. It's going to be a low-scoring game, like John said. I like the under in this one, but even on the road, second time in less than a month, I think the Panthers are going to leave Pittsburgh with 2 points. So I'm going to take that minus 125.
Yeah, I love greatness. You know, a lot of people talking about they're sit there, bored by the Chiefs. I love greatness. I loved it when Brady was doing it. I loved it when Mahomes was doing it. I loved it. We talk about Gretzky and Lemieux and Yager and Messier and all these great players, Ovechkin. I'm sad for Crosby's sake. I want to see him in the playoffs. He's had a phenomenal year. He deserves to be there. And I just think you guys said it, man. The more time goes on, it just becomes a little bit more clear that the Penguins just aren't going to get there. And it sucks because, I really want to see him. Now, will they make a run if they get in? Doubtful. But you at least want to see them in there, and I mean, Crosby's just had this phenomenal year, keeps doing it year after year, having one of the best seasons he's had in a while, and it's tough to watch. All that being said, I think the under at minus 118 is the best bet of this game. Odds wise, values wise, I do think Panthers minus 125 is the right pick. Both these teams, doesn't matter who's in net, whether it's the starter, whether it's the backup, both these teams don't allow goals. They're both top 5 in goals against. I really do like the under. But like you said, Andre, I think Florida has sights on first place, man. I think Florida's coming for that division. Whether they get it or not, that's still to be seen, but I think they're coming for it, and I think they'll be contending for it for the rest of the year. So give me Florida on the money line as well. But my favorite bet in this game is the under. Let's move on to a game that is like oddly compelling, and no disrespect to our Sharks, but you wouldn't really think of it that way. When I wrote this in to our banner here about 45 minutes ago, it was Winnipeg minus 425. It is now Winnipeg minus 455. Sharks are now plus 350. Minus 1.5 on the Jets puck line is minus 155 for a minus 1.5. Plus 1.5 for the Sharks is plus 130. The over is 5.5 at minus 120. The under is plus 100. Andre, we'll start with you, man. What do you see in this game tonight?
I'm seeing round 3 between a very competitive season series this year. First game in San Jose, Sharks won 2-1. Second game in San Jose, Jets won 2-1. Now they're moving to Manitoba, and we got a struggling Jets team. I know they beat Pittsburgh over the weekend, but that snapped a 5-game losing streak. The offense still hasn't managed to score more than 2 goals in a game since, January 16th?
Yeah.
It's a 7-game stretch. 2 goals might be enough to beat the puck line against the Sharks, but I don't think it will be. Even with the Jets' incredible goaltending, it's really hard to bet on a shutout. And for what it's worth, the Sharks have scored multiple goals in 6 straight games. So I like that Sharks puck line at plus 130, that plus 1.5. I think this could be another competitive game between these teams, even though the venue's shifting a little bit. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks won this one, which is kind of weird, but it's definitely going to be low scoring. There's not going to be a lot of room for margin or room for error based on the way these teams have played. Wouldn't be surprised if it was 2-1 again. And either way you spin it, I see a 1-goal game at the end, which at plus 130, I'll ride with the Sharks all day.
I do love that the Sharks, like, they score multiple goals, and we're like, they've scored multiple goals like in many of their last games. Yeah, I mean, listen, they're 4-2 in their last 6 right now. They're on a heater by Shark standards. The Jets 1-5 in their last 6 since going 18-4. Remember that. They were 18-4, man. They were winning seemingly every night. They're 1-5 since then. Exactly like you said, man. I had that written down too. The Jets haven't scored more than 2 goals in the last 7 games. And that's obviously concerning. I am right there with you. I think Sharks plus 1.5 at plus 130 is terrific odds. I can absolutely see this game. I kind of like it parlayed with the under 5.5 plus 100. You're getting plus 130, plus 100. I can absolutely see this game being 2-0, 2-1. Or sorry, 1-0. No, sorry, 2-1, 3-2. I don't think the Sharks win this game only because I think that for the Jets, they haven't been playing the greatest hockey, and this is an absolute get-right game. The Jets have to win this game, and I think that they do. They're at home. If you're getting plus 130 for plus 1.5 for the Sharks, I think that's good enough. There's no need to get risky with the money line. I do think the Jets find a way to win this game. They have to. But yeah, give me Sharks, man. Plus 130 for plus 1.5. Absolutely love it. John, what about you, man? What do you see here tonight?
I think what I'm about to say is going to confirm what you guys picked in your minds, at least, because I'm going against the grain here. I don't like the Sharks at all in this spot. I actually would look at a shutout bet. Like for the I feel like the Sharks are due for a bad game.
Okay.
Because you mentioned they're 4-2 in their last 6 and they are scoring, but now you're asking them to go up against the top goaltending team in the league. And the Sharks are the worst. I mean, it's just such a big differential there. I'm not sure what the odds are in this game of the Sharks getting shut out, but that's something I would be really tempted by. I might go back to my old thing that I've gotten burned by, but that Jets 2.5 is just really looming. I, I just don't see the Sharks competing in this one, mainly because these two teams, the Jets are coming back around. I think like after losing like 5 straight, they got a much needed win on Saturday. They've been well rested, fresh. As Mark said, I think this is a get right game for them as well. Much better goaltending on the Jets side of things. I see this as a game where the Jets destroyed them, honestly. Like, I don't think the Sharks can keep this up. Like winning, not winning. Scoring at least 2 goals every game, which is a lot by Shark standards. And now you're asking them to do this against the Jets. I just don't see it, honestly. So I think I would either A, go with the Jets 2.5 puck line, or B, bet the Sharks to get shut out. One or the other, depending on the odds there.
I love it. I love the. I can't expect the Sharks to keep scoring 2 or more goals in a game.
That's a lot by their standards.
I love it. It's so
That's their
funny.
average.
No, dude, I don't disagree with you. It's just funny, like to have such low expectations for a team. It's insane. I'm looking. Jets to win with a shutout plus 475. So not the worst.
Yeah, that's really tempting, honestly.
Yeah, not the worst. I was just, oh man, now I'm getting carried away. So if you're looking at Sharks -2, or sorry, Jets -2.5, for the Jets to win by exactly 3 is plus 310, John. There you go, a little fun long shot for you. All right, moving on to the last game of the night. Minnesota, the surging Minnesota Wild in Arizona to face the University of Arizona Coyotes. Plus 102, Dogs at home. Minus 122 are the Wild on the road. I feel like the Wild are playing every night lately. Over 6 is minus 105. The under is minus 115. Minus 1.5 for the Wild is plus 205. Plus 1.5 for the Coyotes is minus 250. A little bit shocked at plus 102. Again, similar to the Pittsburgh line. That seems pretty respectful to me when it comes to the Coyotes. John, we'll start with you, brother. What do you see in this game tonight?
I think I'm going to use this as my underdog pick of the night and go with Arizona. I say this very slightly because I think this is going to be a competitive game, but the Wild and the Coyotes are nearly even in goals per game, nearly even in goals allowed, especially lately because I think the Wild have improved significantly in that category compared to the start of the season. I think the power play is the biggest difference, honestly. Not that the Wild have a bad power play. I just think they have a bad penalty kill. They're under 75%, and the Coyotes are over 22%, I believe, on the power play. So, yeah, I think that's the difference in this game. I also think both these teams are playing a little desperate. I did watch a little bit of the game on, I think it was Monday against Philadelphia that Arizona played. That was a really tough loss for them, if I'm being honest. They had every shot to win that game.
Yeah.
But a great save near the end by Philadelphia, a costly goal. I think Arizona feels like they let that slip away. And maybe they remember it. I don't know. Like, I'm not convinced Arizona's done just yet. I don't think they'll make a playoff push. I don't think they'll make a playoff push or anything, but I do think they're getting a little more desperate to get points as the game goes on. So I see this as a chance tonight for a little bit of redemption. Keep hope alive another few days, at least for this season for them. Yeah, I think plus money underdog at home. I'd be willing to back Arizona here.
Yeah, man, you'd think that I would be the one to be backing Arizona, but it's John. And honestly, I really want to back him with you, man. I really want to jump on it. I think the trends, like the Wild, are just playing really good hockey right now, plain and simple. That game against Vegas the other night was super impressive. They are on a 3-game winning streak. They've won 7 of their last 10. The Coyotes 6-game losing streak, and the more concerning thing about the Coyotes for me is especially the last 2 games. They've had leads in those third periods. They've had opportunities to close them out, and I think back-to-back games where you're winning in the third period, I just think it kind of crushes you. And I think the Wild are just playing better hockey right now, plain and simple. I like the minus 122. You're absolutely right. Both these teams playing desperate. The Coyotes, they're 8 points back right now. Minnesota only 5 points back. It's not completely out of reach for the Coyotes. But I just think right now the Wild, they're just playing better, and I think they're going to take advantage of a demoralized team in the Coyotes. I will say, as I always do, Lawson Krause, plus if just keep an eye out for his shot totals, 3+ shots, over 2.5, whatever it is, jump on it. I also like Eriksson Ek to score pretty much every night, as well as Kaprizov. And I mean, don't look now, man. Matt Boldy's been scoring a lot. He's been playing really well as well. So keep a lookout for him. Andre, finish us off, man. What do you see in this game tonight?
I'm running with the Wild. They played well. 3 in a row. The Vegas win, very impressive to me. Not a game that any of us expected them to come out on top in. Arizona, 6 straight losses. Allowed 5 goals in the last 2. Allowed 6 goals in the first 2. Between then, a pair of losses where they allowed 3. Not getting the stops, which is how they were succeeding. Offense is always going to be come and go with this team, especially if they're not succeeding on the power play. While I think the power play does have a good matchup in this game, I also think that Minnesota's playing very well right now and can overcome allowing a power play goal or 2. So I'm going to take the Wild on the road. I'm going to expect them to stay hot. I'm going to take the over 6. Not trusting Arizona's goaltending right now. I'm trusting Minnesota's offense. Think Arizona could get some back, but not enough to come out with the win at home. So tight game. Wouldn't be surprised if it is, but I think Minnesota finds a way to get 2 more points when this night's over.
Yeah, that total. I'm nervous about that total, man. I can see it being over. I can see it being under. Minnesota, like for them to score 5 goals the other night, I feel like is pretty crazy by Wild standards. And yeah, I'm kind of scared of that total. All right, let's head into our best bets on the for the night, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. With the promo code SportsAdded, you get 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires, including a plethora of sports cards up to 50% off. You get an additional 10% off on those items as well. Told you the other day I saw Mike Tyson's first sports card ever. It's up there. There's wrestling, there's boxing added to football, basketball, baseball, hockey. They got everything. So check it out. FirstRoundCollectibles.com, promo code SportsAddict for 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires. Number 1, STRoundCollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. John, what is your best bet on this Wednesday, Valentine's Day night?
As a single guy, I forget Valentine's Day exists sometimes.
Yeah, I do too, unfortunately. I need to be better at that.
Come on, man. You're the family man out of us.
I know. Trust me.
It's on you.
I know.
All right. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go back to the first game we talked about. Just because I feel like it's a little crazy to bet a shutout as the best bets. Florida against Pittsburgh. I just don't think that's a good matchup for Pittsburgh at all. I feel like, as we talked about before, Florida's the real deal. They're looking to compete, have their sights on Boston. And honestly, the style of play that both of those teams play, I just think Florida really has their number. I expect them to come out on top again here. Give me the Florida Panthers money line tonight.
Andre, what about you, bro? What are you seeing here?
I'm doing it. Sharks plus 1.5.
All right.
I'm doing it. They beat the Jets once. The other game was a 2-1 loss. Even if the Jets win, I could very well, even if they get shut out, like John said, if they shut out the Sharks, I could see this being a 1-0 game. There's no reason to believe either of these offenses are going to score more than 2 goals in 60 minutes. So that really gives you a lot of breathing room when it comes to a plus 1.5. So I'm going to take it.
All right. You know what, man? Let's get a little bit risky on this Valentine's Day evening.
Feel the love.
I'm gonna go to that game as well, and I'm gonna throw on the under 5.5. I really, because I agree with you that it will be Sharks plus 1.5. I'm on that train. And if it's going to be Sharks plus 1.5, I think it's going to be under 5.5. You know, this game's not going to be 7-3 or 5-4. If the Sharks are within 1 goal, it's going to be under 5.5. So let's go with that plus 100 under 5.5.
That's how you do it, boys. So John's starting us off with the Panthers money line. Really like that one. Minus 125. Flipping to me and Mark, I have the Sharks at plus 1.5 on its own. It's plus 130. The under 5.5 in Winnipeg is plus 100. Parlay together, they're plus 246. That 2-leg parlay, add with the Panthers money line, is plus 522 as a 3-legger. So
absolutely love it. I'm feeling a sweep on this Valentine's night, boys. We've been rolling lately. Tough day on Monday. Bounce back day for us yesterday. And I'm feeling good about tonight. As always, to everybody, thank you so much for watching. Great stuff today, guys. Good luck on your bets. Listen, if it's Valentine's Day, sometimes for Valentine's Day, it can be depressing for some people. And if you're using gambling and sports to kind of soothe the pain, just be responsible out there, all right? We don't need you heartbroken and broke, you know? You got to kind of balance it out. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. Thank you, as always, for watching. Good luck on your bets, and we will see you tomorrow.